Everybody, more StatsCan trouble this morning. So John Brassard tweeted out, "For the past 2 days, Justin Trudeau, ongoing after your private banking data without your consent, have been saying that we were working with the Privacy Commissioner." Clearly they were not. And there's a link to the Privacy Commissioner website to an announcement. And the announcement is, this was yesterday, October 31st, Privacy Commissioner launches investigation into Statistics Canada. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada has received complaints related to the Statistics Canada and its collection of personal information from private sector organizations and has opened an investigation. The complaints follow media reports that Statistics Canada requested several banks provide the agency with financial transaction information of hundreds of thousands of Canadians. The Privacy Commissioner, Daniel Theron, welcomes Chief Statistician's invitation for his office to take a, quote, deeper dive into StatCan's collection of data from the private sector organizations. The Commissioner's office will be seeking details regarding the information requests the agency has made to various industry sectors. StatsCan has previously consulted with the Privacy Commissioner's office on the privacy implications related to data collections from private sector organizations, but outside of the context of an investigation. A summary of those consultations is included in the Commissioner's annual report, and we're going to look at that in a second. So the Commissioner's office has a legal obligation to investigate the complaints fairly and impartially under the law. The Privacy Act, Canada's federal public sector privacy law, includes confidentiality provisions. Therefore, no additional details can be provided at this time. So they're using the Privacy Act to say, yeah, nothing else. Okay, so this is the annual report. And good luck finding the information about specifically, the TransUnion data breach or the upcoming banking data breach. Like, to find it, I don't even know what keywords to look at because it's scrubbed. Like, you can't look for TransUnion. TransUnion. Nope, nothing there. And so you can't search by keyword on this document. So finding the information you're looking for is difficult. But I did find some interesting information. So this is the Commissioner's message. And I actually called StatsCan, the Privacy Office today, the Privacy Commissioner's office, because I wanted to know exactly what day they became aware of the TransUnion transaction, so the collection of data from TransUnion, because that's already happened. That's credit card data, and that's gone. That's the StatsCan already has that. And when they became aware of this bank collection, because I'm going to show you in a minute. Well, I'll show it to you right now. Justin Trudeau says that they've been consulting with them. So. Okay, and here it is.
Canadians are rightly worried. Why are the Liberals collecting the personal data of Canadians without telling them?
Honourable Prime Minister. Our government is ensuring that the personal data of Canadians are protected. Statistics Canada will use the anonymized data for statistical purposes only. No personal information will be made public.
And notice there, he said no personal information will be made public. They will have it. That's the intention.
I understand Statistics Canada is actively engaged with the Privacy Commissioner's office on this project and is working with them to ensure Canadians' banking information remains protected and private.
Well, that's really interesting because here's a statement released at 4 a.m., and anybody who's paying attention knows what 4 a.m. talking points are. Here's their statement. The Chief Statistician asked Privacy Commissioner to take deeper dive. So the Chief Statistician asked Privacy Commissioner to take a deeper dive. The following statement was issued to the media yesterday by the Chief Statistician of Canada. Statistics Canada has a long history of working with personal and sensitive information to support policy making and research, and we have a rigorous process in place to protect the privacy of Canadians. Traditional statistics gathering methods are no longer sufficient to accurately measure Canada's economy and societal changes. It is our duty to leverage the best methods and sources to provide facts to Canadians when they need it, while providing the highest level of protection of privacy and confidentiality. More than 75% of purchases are conducted online by Canadians, and Statistics Canada has to have access to this data in order to provide all Canadians with the timely and quality statistics they need in areas such as housing and debt and the impacts of transitioning to a GIG economy. 75% of Canadians are buying houses online? Housing and debt? What? And no, I'm misrepresenting that purposely because it's silly, but yes, 75% of Canadians make purchases online, and they want to use this data to balance the housing and debt crisis, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I believe that. I don't believe that. Okay, back to their statement. Throughout the planning of the pilot project, we have worked closely with the Office of the Privacy Commissioner and incorporated their recommendations into our design. In fact, I have invited the Privacy Commissioner to provide us with any additional suggestions. I understand the concerns that Canadians have and want to assure them their personal information is carefully protected and never shared publicly. Yeah, well, losing the data is not least of my concerns, but it's one of them because historically, the government generally is not a good custodian of the data. Sometimes people's cars get stolen with, treasure troves of all of Canadians' data sitting in the laptop in the back seat, right? Like that's happened recently. And that's a problem. But also, I don't trust this government. Not at all. And we're going to get to that too. So back to the report here. So this is the commissioner's message. And he says, with the Facebook matter, individuals must now confront the idea that personal information may be analyzed for far more insidious purposes than marketing. In this instance, the allegations are that our information was used to influence political opinions. What's next? How else are we being manipulated? These issues also underscore deficiencies in Canada's privacy laws that I and my predecessors have tried to draw attention to for years. This past year alone, we've had numerous opportunities to highlight those deficiencies and propose potential solutions. We have testified and made submissions to parliamentarians on the need to modernize the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, PIPEDA, and proposed changes to the national security legislation, Bill C-59, in which we reiterated a number of recommendations we made on the Privacy Act reform in 2016, among other things. We also drew attention to the lack of standards and oversight over the personal information handling practices of political parties. The government introduced legislation intended to respond to this important gap. Bill C-76, however, adds nothing of substance in terms of privacy protection. Rather than impose internationally recognized standards, the bill leaves it to parties to define the rules they want to apply. It does not impose independent oversight. On this and many other fronts, Canada's privacy legislation is sadly falling behind what is the norm in other countries. The time of self-regulation is over. In Canada, we of course have privacy legislation, but it is quite permissive and gives companies wide latitude to use personal information for their own benefit. Under PIPEDA, organizations have a legal obligation to be accountable, and this is me for a minute. Our banks are governed, and the credit card union, I believe, are both governed under PIPEDA, and that's from the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. When I spoke with them this morning, I confirmed who was being governed by what, and he said, yeah, PIPEDA governs both of those organizations. So PIPEDA is the legislation that allows or governs private data in public corporation hands. So back to the article. Transparency and accountability are necessary, but they are not sufficient. To be clear, it is not enough to ask companies to live up to these responsibilities. Canadians need stronger privacy laws that will protect them when organizations fail to do so. Respect for those laws must be enforced by a regulator independent from industry and the government with sufficient power to ensure compliance. Unfortunately, and this is me jumping down a little bit, progress from the government has been slow to non-existent. The only clear support was for a majority of the amendments suggested to Bill C-59, the anti-terrorism bill. As regards to the Privacy Act, adopted 35 years ago to regulate privacy in the public sector, the Minister of Justice announced in 2016 that she had instructed her officials to begin concentrated work towards modernizing the law, an exercise she agreed was long overdue. Yet no concrete proposal has been made public. So, and that's, we're in the end of 2018 here. Like, are they going to come out with this next week? Here's another little bit of interesting news that slipped by for me. And I was looking into something else. They're creating a new national agency, a review agency. This is a National Security and Intelligence Review Agency. And I was working on a whole video about this yesterday when the StatsCan stuff kind of continued to blow up, so I'm just doing that. But this is important, and it's interesting to know. It's an aside for this video, but this CSIS stuff is not. So this was from June 2018, and this is all in line with the privacy stuff. So in spite of past warnings, CSIS continues to harvest troves of data on ordinary Canadians, Watchdog reveals. So Canada's spy service continues to collect and keep too much data about ordinary citizens, and there's evidence some of this material is being, quote, retained unlawfully, a new Watchdog report has found. And so this goes through, so the Watchdog's concern focused on the collection of, quote, bulk data sets, a practice in the global intelligence world that involves constantly collecting large volumes of records about ordinary citizens, not just national security targets, and the hopes of the information can help contextualize potential security threats. It's a distinct issue from the SIRC's previously stated concerns over CSIS CSIS's practice of retaining communication, quote, metadata, such as phone numbers, email addresses of Canadians who were previously seen to be connected to terrorism suspects, even though they were not considered threats themselves. Okay, I'm going to jump down here. In Britain, for example, forms of financial records, telephone directories, travel logs, passport data, and similar material are all in play, according to an intelligence operative who stated in 2016 lawsuit affidavit that, quote, without the haystack, one cannot find the needle. About all that is known of CSIS's foray into this realm since 2006, the agency has been putting different data, we don't know what kind of data, into its Operational Data Analysis Center, ODAC. The existence of the center was highlighted 2 years ago when federal court judges issued a stern public warning about CSIS growing designs on data. In a 2016 ruling, the judge who oversees CSIS's wiretap warrants said that they were kept in the dark about the ODAC until the SIRC urged them to look into the data center and its holdings. When they did, they found what they considered to be illegally retained metadata, records relating to the phone numbers and email addresses of ordinary Canadian citizens. The findings were a major black eye for CSIS. The Globe and Mail reported earlier this week the spy agency is now in the midst of an effort to purge the database of its tainted materials, but it says later that they're not actually doing it. And to make you feel even worse about this, Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodall, who is responsible for CSIS, told the Globe that the government bill will address some of the SIRC's long-standing concerns related to the collection of data. And I don't like Ralph Goodall very much. He's not very good at anything. And he voted for Tory Stafford's murderer to stay in a healing lodge. So, I don't think he's really for Canadians, but that's just my opinion. So that's the StatsCan and private data kind of update for today. Like, it's not looking better. And I said the other day, I think the Trudeau government is in trouble, and I think they're in trouble. I don't think this is a government that anybody who's paying attention can vote for. The only way you're voting for this government is if they're actually directly giving you something. And there are more and more people who are actually directly being given stuff by the government every day, thanks to our tax dollars and Justin Trudeau's unending use of them. But it's frustrating to watch. So anyway, on to immigration. Maxime Bernier tweets out, without any public debate, Liberals' government once again increased immigration number to a new record level, even though half of Canadians want fewer, while only 6% support more. The People's Party of Canada is the only party that will bring immigration down to a reasonable and sustainable level. And he's linking to a report by CTV that says Canada to increase annual immigration admissions to 350,000 by 2021. That's if this guy's still our immigration minister then. And I wanted to show you guys this tweet. So this is yesterday at 3:43 p.m. Buried on Halloween when the kids are getting home. Good job, Mr. Hussen. You don't want anybody to see this who you don't want to see this. But he says, quote, today I was proud to table the new multi-year immigration plan, which sets ambitious targets to welcome newcomers to help contribute to our economy. Immigration remains Canada's edge in remaining competitive on the world stage. Wow. And I responded, you can read that for yourself if you like. It says, here's some responses. I did not find one positive response. Not one. So Debbie says, contributing how? Last time I checked, sitting on welfare drains the economy, not contributes. I'd ask for job figures, but wouldn't believe you anyway after Lib's latest fiascos. Scott says, Ahmed, more low IQ immigrants, more Muslims, more welfare parasites. How about some intelligent Western European, South African farmers who share our values, will contribute and not represent low-grade trash from the world's shithole countries? This is incredibly dangerous and reckless, says Daryl. It's not working in Europe. And as we're seeing the public voting, it's not working in the United States. It's not working here in Canada. Globalism must end. Torgy68 says, no freebies from taxpayers, sponsorship in the past unless they can support themselves. Here's a meme with a whole bunch of looks like ISIS and Hamas and Al Qaeda and Hezbollah fighters and our illustrious prime minister there. Ridiculous. Yes, well. And the memes tell a story, guys. The memes tell a story. Memes, not memes. Okay, memes tell a story. And it's very convincing when I see all of like this Trump support. And it's not just me, I'm glad there are people who are calling bullshit. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. And this whole government needs to just come down. Here is the saddest story, and that's saying a lot. The invasion is full bore.
Amid the ceremony that comes with the opening of a new session of the legislature was this. It was a prayer never before heard in the Legislative Assembly. An Islamic Imam was invited to deliver the blessing on the new session.
This is a place that reflects and values.
Yeah.
The blessing has been traditionally delivered by a Christian clergy member. However, ethnic diversity...
Okay, and I'll just leave it there. You can watch the whole report. This isn't an every year thing. This is just this year, and they're looking at. They said there's a First Nations and a Catholic blessing, and now we've had a Muslim imam. So I liked Little Mosque on the Prairie when they played that. I thought it was kind of neat. And then I learned more about Islam, and I thought this was an interesting thing. So the imam as well says some nice things about his book. And but I thought this was an interesting term to be acquainted with. I don't know how to say it. Taqiya? I'm not sure. In Islam, literally pronounced prudence, fear, is the precautionary dissimulation or denial of religious belief and practice in the face of persecution. Another term for this concept has more specific... Oh, hold on a second. Sorry about that. This practice is emphasized in Sharia Islam, whereby adherents are permitted to conceal their religion when under threat of persecution or compulsion. However, it is also permitted in Sunni Islam under certain circumstances. According to Sharia doctrine, Taqiya is permissible in situations where there is overwhelming danger of loss of life or property, and where no danger to religion would occur. Thereby, Taqiya has also been politically legitimized, particularly among 12 Shias, in order to maintain unity among Muslims and fraternity among the Sharia circles. Yarden Mariuma, sociologist at Columbia University, writes, Taqiya is an Islamic judicial term whose shifting meaning relates to when a Muslim is allowed, under Sharia law, to lie. So, I don't know. I'm not saying that this guy's lying, and I'm not saying that all Muslims are bad, but watching what's happening in Europe, we should have some much stronger laws preventing normalization of an invading force, period. The Muslim Brotherhood has gone on record saying that they'll use politics to gain control and then usurp control of the country. And we're watching that in real time in the United Kingdom happening right now. And ignoring that fact is silly. Opening our legislatures to, quote, diversify when in the face of a Western country being invaded by exactly the same ideology. It's insanity. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. And Don Lemon just doesn't like white people. And I think that it's really weird that, so apparently CNN is standing behind him. But apparently, according to Don Lemon, white men are the biggest terror threat in the United States. So white men are terribly scary, I guess. Man. Well, thanks for watching. Happy November 1st. Time for Christmas music in the department stores. We've turned a corner. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.